that.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. My registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility.
I saw that. I thought that was pretty good. I like that phrase. I saw it at the bottom of your assistant's email.
Yeah, yeah. And we are live. It says we are live. So anything you say right now is going to be recorded on
Okay.
YouTube and on Facebook. And so today, for those of you, the teacher's pets in the classroom, I need for you to do your work because you watch this class for free. And your part in paying back is to make sure you promote us, that you share this, that you tag somebody, because, it's very important that we help one another out. And this is the way you do it. You do it by sharing, liking, um, tagging, and making people aware that it is time to take your life back. And today we have Jason Christoff here, and we are going to learn all about self-sabotage. So fasten your seatbelt. Oop, nope, you can't fasten your seatbelt because if I don't hit the record button, Robert will tell me you need to hit the record button. Here we go. Because we also have BitChute that we record and upload to. We're getting ready for the future. Okay. For those of you joining us on BitChute later on, I am excited that you are here. We're going to be talking all about self-sabotage. So fasten your seatbelt. It's time to dance because we're going to learn and grow together. Here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friends. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as I have proposed before and asked before this question, have you ever felt like you just don't quite get your goals? I remember coaching someone that he would always get this close. I am this close from my goal. And that closeness never came. Or that maybe you found yourself in the same kind of relationship over and over again. It's the next verse, same as the first. Is there anything that is keeping you from the life of your dream? You could blame anybody or everybody for not achieving what you want. But the reality is, if you take responsibility for everything in your life, I mean everything, then if you created it, you can uncreate it. So we're going to take this myth about sabotage, people sabotaging you, and let's look at how we can take, which control is an illusion, but let's take our life back and create the life that we want. And who else but Mr. Sabotage, self-sabotage guru, Jason Christoff, who is here to share his story and what we can do to end the self-sabotage or to be aware of it and create something different and new. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am so grateful that Jason Christoff is here to do just that. Welcome, Jason, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show classroom. Oh, you are muted. I don't know what happened.
How about that?
There you go. Was that self-sabotage or what?
It could be on my part. It's very common. No one has to run away. Self-sabotage is done by everybody. If they don't understand how their brains work, they're going to be in real trouble, because the human condition is to self-sabotage and play the safe card. And no one really knows what that means. And that's why I teach this around the world, trying to make sure people understand it is common to be afraid of being your best. And, that's because we do have minds that are more prone to fit in. And that's what people have to first understand if they want to overcome their self-sabotage. It's very common to play to the average, to play to the average weight, to play to the average income, to play to the average routine. And there's safety in numbers. There's safety in the herd. There's safety in the flock. There's safety in rituals and custom and ceremonies. But in our society, the way our brains work, though, is there's a part of our brain that we don't know operates, and it scans our environment for those averages, looking for, common themes, repetitive messages. And the repetitive message that the subconscious mind will pick up in our environment is it's safe to be mediocre. I have a phrase that I use with my self-sabotage clients and my coaches is, no one hates the janitor. They all hate Tom Brady. And that's very natural, because humans are proven to be pack animals. And what that means is that you want to make sure that you don't stand above. And if you do stand above, the other people that are in the herd try to pull you back down, not that they're adversarial to betterment. It's just they're trying to protect you and say, hey, do you know you're in an unsafe area? There's a greater safety down here in the bigger numbers. And that's why it's like crabs in a crab bucket. I'm not too sure if anybody's aware of that. And
Yeah.
it's not even an analogy, because it's real. I've seen crabs in a crab bucket or in a lobster trap. And what happens is that one of the smarter crabs, and this is how it goes, one of the most intelligent, motivated crabs says, I can climb, out on the ropes, and then I can get up to the top and get back out. And then once that smart crab gets to the top hole where they all entered, the other crabs will try to pull them back down because they're nervous to be left behind. Mm. So it's natural for us to sabotage our own pursuits, because we have the subconscious mind that warns us that we're going above and beyond the average accomplishment level. And that this is why people drink on a Friday night. This is why people, drink wine, drink coffee, eat ice cream, eat cake. See, when we work jobs that we don't really enjoy that much, and then we have a break on the weekend where we couldn't potentially indulge in making a business plan, the best way to scuttle that dream is to pollute yourself.
Wow. And
the subconscious would be the one pushing the messaging forward or pushing the behavior forward to say, the subconscious mind is like a sentinel. It's there to protect you in a very odd and very bizarre way, where it won't let you become better than the average. So the subconscious mind stands as this odd sentinel inside your psyche, say on a Friday night, and it will declare openly, hey, I know you have 48 hours to pursue better health, better wealth, make a business plan, have a great relationship. And then if you try to do that, your subconscious mind will, manufacture fear-based reactions in your inside the metabolism. And then it'll give you sort of, dopamine and serotonin rewards as well. If you have the wine, if you have the ice cream, if you order the pizza, to scuttle any chance that by Monday you might figure out how to become a better person.
Well, before we go down that digging with our private investigator and medical detective hat here, and how to understand, to acknowledge, recognize, and overcome self-sabotage, they say that the student becomes the teacher. And so I know you have your story. And so for those of you who think that you don't self-sabotage, there are two kinds of people in this world. Ones who self-sabotage and the other ones who are in denial about self-sabotage. So I am so grateful, Jason, that you are not in denial and that you can share your story with us so that we can learn from you.
Yeah, well, I went from master saboteur to master self-sabotage coach. And in my self-sabotage coaching program, we always have the phrase, every master was once a disaster. I collect disasters inside my self-sabotage coaching program. And I was, I did a lot of cocaine. I drank a lot. I would race fast cars and fast motorcycles and sometimes wrap them around telephone poles. Oof. My mother was afraid for my life 24 hours a day, probably up until about 15 or 20 years ago. And I was just your regular programmed sort of soulless North American meat bag that I would pursue hedonistic pleasures at all cost. I thought my body was some sort of carnival ride to extract pleasure from at all costs. And at 29 years old, I started a very successful business when I was 24. And if you're programmed, like if you don't understand how your mind works, and you start coming into a lot of money, especially at that age when you're fully programmed, you don't have any idea what sort of society you're living in. You come across large amounts of money, and then it loads bigger bullets in the gun, and you sort of blow your own head off with it. And that's what I was doing. I would just do more self-abusive things until one day at 29 years old, I was almost dead at 29. And then I came across, there's an institute in Vista, California called the Chek Institute. It's a holistic healing institute led by Paul Chek. Mm-hmm. And I managed to get a hold of one of his top practitioners. She knew the problems I had were more psychologically programmed into me. She started the deprogramming and the defragmenting of my mental hard drive. And then eventually she healed me very well. And I was very interested in this magic that she was using on me. So I started to heal myself.
Interesting, because there is a guy that did the Chek. I'm trying to remember his name. His name is John, and I'm trying to remember his last name. And he is in South Florida, west coast of Florida. And I met JP Sears there.
JP.
Yeah. And but he started with the Chek program as well.
Yep. And
I guess that program kind of didn't continue, and he continued the work through his work. And gosh, I know, because I told you, I remember everything. I remember John's name before the end, or Robert will remember John's name because we interviewed him, quite a bit here, because that's so important. And but going back to the fact that you almost died, some people almost die, but yet that's not enough. They don't stop and say, whoa, this is an opportunity to grow. What can I learn here? So at that moment, what were you thinking? You're one and done. That was I make, a mistake once and I learn from it. I sit back and I evaluate it. I'm like a self-cleaning oven, and as a coach, that's what you need to be. But at that time you weren't a coach.
No.
you were a student that became a master teacher. So what went through your mind when you said, it's like no big deal, I'm invincible? What went through your mind?
What went through my mind was pretty simple. I just thought, okay, do you want to die at such a young age, or do you want to maybe pursue? I was programmed with sort of a self-abusive mind control virus. So I simply switched self-abusive modalities, which is very common with self-sabotage, where I just started to self-abuse or go into a radical form of health. So I beat myself up in a self-abusive way with drugs and alcohol. And then it became radicalized into pursuing health at all costs. So I just kind of switched the way I was beating myself up. In the end, it was a better way to attack myself. And in the realm of self-sabotage, this is very common. What I did is I'll give you an example. A smoker quits smoking, and then they become a marathon runner. In the realm of self-sabotage, nothing changed because they just switched self-abusive modalities. So there are self-abusive vibratory services, people, and products. And if you don't know how your brain works, you usually just rebound and pinball between those self-abusive modalities. They're disguised in different costumes. So as a self-sabotage coach, I'm very good at making sure people understand that potentially they didn't really quit anything, and it's time to just become at peace with themselves instead of finding new and better ways to hurt themselves. I hope that makes some sense.
Yeah. I've seen people who quit smoking, and then all of a sudden they start sucking on a lollipop. The next thing you know, they gain 100 pounds, so they substitute one bad behavior for another bad behavior. But you substituted a behavior that was deadly with that was taking away your life with a behavior that was giving you life. And then you became you were already an expert, teaching people. What came first, your career in exercise and fitness and diet, or?
Well, that's where I started to get it, because I went to the Czech Institute and qualified myself.
Okay.
And then after that, I started to teach people health and wellness. And that's when I found out no matter how good a coach you were with health and wellness, the people would never change. So even though they were paying me, maybe $100 an hour to do their diet and do their exercise programming, they would never stick to it. And they had all the excuses. And so I would say to myself, like, what is this where people, dig in the dirt like rabid badgers digging for their worst life? What is it about their best life that scares them so much? Why are they in fear of being thin? Why do they take solace in going to the doctor and playing the victim? And why don't they notice the pop and chip and chocolate bar machine at the hospital? And what is it with these people who, say that, one piece of cake won't hurt you? And basically they never just have one piece of cake, and one piece of cake will hurt you, by the way.
That's right.
So what about all this phraseology and all these excuses and the symbology of these perpetual victims where they're literally terrified to be better than their peers? And by studying psychology, I started to understand how the subconscious mind works. And this isn't a malfunction. Nothing wrong with these people at all. The part of the brain that protects us reacts to our environment. And that's why if you don't understand how it is, it doesn't matter how many times you take a run at losing weight or quitting alcohol or wanting to start your own business, but you never get around to it. You got to have one more book or take one more course, that procrastination cycle. The human mind forbids you from being better than your environment, the subconscious. And the subconscious mind is a part of the mind that scans your environment at such a ferocious rate. The average person would be baffled. They measured the conscious mind, the part you and I are talking with, and they found out it could handle about 140 pieces of information a second. They measured the subconscious, the part of the brain that's scanning the environment looking for patterns, looking for the best way to fit in. What's the best thing to say? What's the best weight to be at? What's the best thing to eat so we don't get ostracized or we don't get attacked or criticized? They measured that part of the brain as operating at 11 million pieces of information a second. And it's even more ferocious in childhood at 90 million pieces of information a second.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how obsessed that part of the brain is with protecting you. Again, it's not a malfunction. It's there to look at your parents. It looks at the TV shows, which is really dangerous, and it develops safety protocol for you. And it's a massive supercomputer. I tell people this subconscious supercomputer's in the basement of your house, and you're not in the basement door is locked. You're not allowed to go down and observe how your behavior is manufactured. All you get, there's like little holes in the cement floor to the, you're on the first floor, little drilled holes, and all you get pushed up from the supercomputer is like fortune cookies. And that's all you get. And your conscious mind acts these fortune cookie fortunes out like it's an actor, and the subconscious is the director. You might open the fortune cookie and it might say, drink wine on a Friday night. It'll never make you healthy. It'll never make you thin. Red wine, there's no study in the world that says red wine in moderation is healthy for you. But the reason the subconscious would parlay those observations into a direct order for you to drink at night is because of what it sees on the screen. Nothing else, nothing more. There's so many wine inserts in movie and TV shows that the subconscious is hacked to believe that fitting in with this particular tribe involves drinking wine on a Friday night or after work.
Yeah. We've been programmed from day one, and I'm seeing children now, being soothed in front of the iPads. I mean, now they've got iPads for little kids, and when you go to restaurants, the way the parents are keeping their kids quiet is by having them, play with the iPad. This is very dangerous. This is a subject that people should all be listening to. I mean, I don't know if you know, but I'm for choice. I am pro-choice, informed choice, and so when I see the vaccine movement and how it's coming along and where it's going, I say this is one of the most important conversations that we can have in our lifetime, which is protecting our bodies, and so does protecting our thoughts, because first it's the thought, then it's the feeling, and then it's the action. But what I'm hearing you say, and what all of us, even I'm sure you still find yourself sabotaging yourself and catching yourself going, I recognize this as sabotage. But but because we're human, and that is the human condition. But what I'm hearing you say is that this is part of our comfort zone, and our comfort zone is run by our ego, wanting to look good, wanting to be right, wanting to be, comfortable, wanting to, be in control. Those are the way we know that our ego is ruling us. But what are some of the tips that you can give us? Because, and by the way, for those of you who have a question for Jason, type in a Q and write your question after that, and we will ask it. If I don't get to it through the pod class, we'll get to it afterwards when the teacher's pets get to talk directly to us as well. So make sure you stick around to the end. So what are some tips to make you aware, make us aware, make me aware that we are constantly sabotaging ourselves without knowing, because it's what's comfortable?
Well, that's a pretty big question, but consciously you can the conscious mind is you actively interfering with you trimming your own potential. But because of the way the subconscious mind works, and because of the way information is limited, you might not know what really qualifies as keeping yourself mediocre or investing in your own mediocrity.
Okay.
It might be completely lost on you because everybody's doing it.
Mhm.
And that's the reason you're doing it, is because the subconscious is, its job is to observe what everybody else is doing. Even if it had observed it originally from the TV screen, you're still going to act it out. So let's take something like coffee. Now, coffee is the #1 image in all Hollywood film. And there's probably not one person I've ever talked to that can recall the coffee cup, the coffee mug, or the kettle. And it's always within the first 15 minutes of any Hollywood movie. You will see the primary character either in the breakfast nook holding a coffee cup, or there's a hot pot, or they're at Starbucks, or Starbucks is in the background. And so let's take coffee. The coffee is one of the #1 ways humans can stay mediocre because of the effect caffeine has on the nervous system. And the subconscious mind, with its scanning ability at 11 million pieces of info a second, does not just scan the outer environment, it scans the inner environment as well. So it's very well aware of all the metabolic cascade in a negative way that coffee will elicit in your metabolism. And it will draw you toward that because it knows staying mediocre is the name of the game. So unless you really know, and this is why this is how I certify self-sabotage coaches, is we have a full list of modalities that qualify as the person trimming their own poppy. And most times, like 9 times out of 10, our clients are literally making it a full-time job to invest in their own mediocrity without them really knowing it, because the subconscious mind wants that person to be mediocre in order for them to acquire safety and security inside the larger herd. And that sort of adaptation is what made you alive. It was very important in childhood, but it is not important in adulthood. So we teach our clients how to make this rite of passage out of a safety-based adaptation of interfacing with the world. And then we show them to be strong, independent adults who can sort of put up with someone saying, "Hey, Jim, do you want a coffee today?" And say, "No, thanks, I quit." And then the attack will come, because that's what the attacker's subconscious mind will do. Come back into the herd. It's safer over here. And as a child, you would be pressured, bullied, and coerced to go back in. As a strong adult, which we have to remind our clients, you can say, "I don't drink anymore. I don't have caffeine anymore. I don't eat gluten anymore." And you will be attacked. And we tell people, it's not 25,000 years ago. Your life isn't threatened. You're not going to be thrown out outside the tribal walls. It's just a minor attack that will pass. And as you rise up, you accomplish your goals, and people will attack you every step of the way. There's no coach that will be ever able to take away this attack. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Something as simple as coffee. And, I didn't even realize that the first 15 minutes of a movie, I'm going to have to pay attention to that. Next time I watch a movie, I'll be thinking of you and trying to catch that. Because once you become aware of the traps, does that make it easier for you to avoid them?
100%. The traps are very subtle. And there's many traps. Like even watching a violent TV show, the way the subconscious mind works, when you watch, say, Avengers Infinity War, where Thanos throws his own daughter, the lady with the green skin, Gamora, he kills his own daughter. It's very traumatic on the brain, and it facilitates a fight or flight response. But you keep sitting. A fight or flight response is supposed to get you up and either run or defend yourself, but you force yourself to sit down. This sort of programming And we advise all our self-sabotage clients to stop watching mainstream media because of this, is because when you...
Everybody should.
For many reasons, but this is called the facilitation inhibition response. There's a facilitation of the fight or flight response because what you saw is scary. That response is natural. The body says, get out of here. Someone's killing somebody. It doesn't know the difference between screen and real life. This is why it has the same reaction. This is why your heart beats fast when you watch Freddy Krueger, or you might jump up inside the cinema. The brain can't tell the difference. So it's telling you, get up. Thanos is a real guy. He's killing people. You might be next. Get up, get out of here, or fight Thanos. He looks pretty big, so maybe you should run. He's a big man. So you don't, you sit. And what that means is you condition your nervous system that when real danger comes along in your own life, or maybe your government's being tyrannical, or maybe you're running out of money, maybe you're in debt, you actually have patternized the inhibition of you to react to danger. So maybe you're at a party, you're talking too long to someone who's not your wife. It's a dangerous situation, but because you subjected yourself to so much violent media that you in no way can react to any danger. And that's another thing we would discuss with our clients is this is the problem with mainstream media. It's the same thing as coffee. Lillian, you don't know how dangerous the coffee is. You don't know how dangerous your TV is. And it makes you more prone to self-sabotage. Anything that frightens your metabolism triggers a part of your brain that loves the herd. The limbic system, the fight or flight system, is a system that gets activated when you're in danger. Now, if I'm in danger, being by myself is more dangerous. Being with other people is less dangerous. So when I'm frightened, I'm automatically more magnetically attracted to trying to fit in with people, which is self-sabotage, because if you try to fit in with people today, you'll drink wine on a Friday night. You'll eat pizza on a Saturday night. You'll watch 3 hours of TV as your best years slip away into dandelion fluff. This is the sort of things we explain to our client. They're not really aware that what they're doing as sort of their full-time job is keeping themselves mediocre to achieve safety and security inside a mediocre culture. I hope
Very
that
good.
makes sense.
It does make sense. And what I'm hearing, what I'm hearing you say, and what I'm getting a different. I thought that this was going to be, how to stop falling for the same person, how to, stop, how to embrace your past traumas in life so that you can give yourself the love that you need. I thought that, but these are subtle sabotages, like drinking coffee and maybe having a glass of wine, or maybe having a piece of pizza, or maybe watching 3 hours of Netflix in one day. So this is really interesting because that takes self-sabotage to a next level, because we all know the self-sabotaging way. Oh, I'm not going to eat that whole cake, or I shouldn't, or shaming ourselves for eating that whole piece of cake, or for being morbidly obese. And, we know, and they've done studies, that people who are morbidly obese have an 85% chance that they were sexually abused as a child. So we're looking at this information that we may not know. It's like we're pretending not to know. These are unresolved issues that are prompting all these behaviors, but I never even thought of drinking a cup of coffee or having a glass of wine. I'm thinking alcoholism. I'm thinking drug abuse. I'm thinking, spousal, falling for the same guy or girl that beats you emotionally, physically. So how do we stop, just stop and sit with what our childhood was do we look and sit with our childhood and try to give ourselves the love that we're looking for, or is it simpler than that?
It's simpler. You don't really want to go back to your trauma, because then you just go back and reinvigorate the nervous system to live through it again. And because that part of the mind doesn't know the difference between now and later. It's thinking you're getting abused now. Very interesting. You said, let's just use this as an example of how little people know about self-sabotage. You said 85% of obese people were sexually abused. The subconscious doesn't know what sexual abuse is, but it knows that basically there is a fear-based impact. And the fear-based impact was repetitive, and nothing programs the subconscious mind more than repetitive impacts. So, and it wants to fit in with that repetitive impact. This is the very odd.
It's the familiar.
It's the familiar.
Yeah.
So that's the reason they're obese, is because they literally, the way the subconscious mind works, it took the baton from their abuser because it was normalized. Now they're away from their abuser. They become the abuser to themselves with the cake and the junk food. So they're living out the same patterns in order to seek the familiar emotional vibrational essence that they lived within inside maybe the original family home. Mm-hmm. So their subconscious mind, like you said, is designed to seek the familiar. And when that person would find a loving mate, a loving meal, a loving movie, a loving time to go to bed, which is 10 o'clock, a loving time to get up, which is with the sun, a love-based exercise routine, the subconscious would reject it all immediately because it doesn't have the brand, the scent, the perfume, or the essence of what's familiar. Mm-hmm. So that person has to know if they were raised in chaos, they will seek chaos. And every product, service, or person they run into, and consciously, if they don't know any of this, they'll think it's fate or that something's wrong with them. And it's not. The subconscious mind, unless interfered with, will always seek the same vibrational essence of its first 7 years of life. Mm-hmm. And this is why it's important to consciously see it happening, but there's only one way to reprogram the subconscious. It's the same way it was programmed in the first place, through repetitive impact. You have to know its function. Its function is as a sentinel of your protection based on in the stimuli that it was given. So if it got given disaster, it will seek disaster. So what your job is with the subconscious is to take advantage of the sentinel. It stands up proudly, and it will say, my job's to protect you by making sure you fit in with whatever I see. So your job is to make sure it sees only positive, only what you want. Stories of betterment, stories of weight loss, stories of falling down and getting back up, stories of success, authors that made it big, basically stories of survival, stories of heroism, stories in the subconscious with enough repetition, and you can't water it down with Avengers Affinity War or Dirty Grandpa or Bad Moms. You can't wash over and dilute it, because then the subconscious mind, who cannot think, it only reacts. It gets confused about what village you live in. Do you live in the Bad Moms village, or do you live in the Marissa Peer village? Maybe Marissa Peer is a brilliant UK hypnotherapist.
Yeah, she's been a teacher in the classroom.
Oh, yeah. She has. She's yeah. You know, and if you're in Marissa Peer's village, the sentinel stands proudly once again and says, if they were protecting you, they're, Lillian, I will protect you. My job is to copy this new village. Everybody's successful. Everybody's happy. You're a little behind. I'm going to bring you forward. Mm-hmm. So it's all about consciously interfering by watching the subconscious mind try to keep you mediocre, laughing at it, saying, ha ha, I see you. You dressed my smoking up as alcohol addiction. And then I quit alcohol. Now I'm on to the ice cream. Then I quit the ice cream and I started dating someone that's not good for me. I see the way you're trying to keep me down. I see the way you're disguising it all. And then you laugh. You have a good chuckle. But subconsciously, you can't hack it any other way than repetitive, constant, positive influences to make that sentinel believe you made what's called a tribal migration, or you changed villages, and it will stand tall and protect you again, making you fit in again with the great new environment.
Yeah. That's the way. There are people, I remember I was at an event with Dr. Joel Furman, and they were talking about, there was this guy, his last name is Dr. King. I'm trying to remember his name, but he was saying that, that people get shot in their neighborhood. That there are people who, there are drive-by shootings, there are, people getting murdered. And it's like, he's a doctor now, and he was talking to his cousin who's living in this kind of neighborhood. And it's like, there's no thought of leaving this neighborhood, but there are people who say, I'm leaving this neighborhood and I'm moving into another neighborhood. So that kind of gave me that story that has to do with the same thing that happens with nutrition in our body. We can get out of whatever situation we find ourselves in, but it requires a mindset. It requires an incredible mindset. And so before we continue talking about the mindset and maybe give some tips of awareness, I want to say thank you to not just Jason, but all the people who've taken a stand, who have gotten out of the norm, as Jason has talked about, and become a sponsor of the classroom. And so I want to encourage all of you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. As you know, I was knocked down on my website. I always thought it would be, you were going to go to Facebook or YouTube and meet me at my website, and you would have a place to meet. And it turned out that they knocked out my website, but we're up and running again. I'm excited to share that. So make sure you subscribe to the website so that you do have a place to go to. We've made it more secure. We are moving out of the old neighborhood where we could get attacked, and we moved into a new neighborhood that's more secure. We have the guided fences, and we're not sharing a lot of places with a lot of other people. So we are new and improved because of it. It's so important that we learn and grow from our opportunities of growth, which are what most people call mistakes. And so I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. While you're there, please subscribe, and also like and follow social media, my Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to my YouTube page. And also please, because if that happens where no longer we're allowed to say the things that we want to say freely, then please subscribe at BitChute, because that's where I am trying to grow. And I know probably, Jason, I don't know if you started your BitChute account yet, but I want everybody to go to bitchute.com, and then it's the Lillian McDermott Radio Show Classroom. That's where you need to find me there. And but if you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, you can just click on it and it'll take you there. While you're at whenyouneedafriend.com, please check out my sponsors. Without my sponsors, there would be no class, like wonderful Nori, Nutritional Oncology Research Institute. And they have Nori nutraceuticals, they have Nori CBD. And when you go to my shopping bag also, you can get, if you decide that you want to try their products, like I have tried their products and absolutely love them, you can get 10% off by putting Lily10 in your code. So you can click on right there and go to Nori Nutraceutical. We have Keep Me Safe Organics. And by the way, we're doing a virtual class. We're doing a virtual makeover class with Keep Me Safe Organics, all organic, non-toxic, non-synthetic, wonderful beauty products. So check it out. You also get Lily10, get 10% off your entire purchase. But we're doing an event on Monday, June 8th. And so I hope that all of you RSVP today or tomorrow if you want some free samples and be a part of the camaraderie of people that are like-minded, looking for things that are going to heal our bodies. So go check out Keep Me Safe Organics, first alternative care, telemedicine, now more than ever before, protect your entire family. And the pharmacy in Merritt Island, they're taking a stand. They're saying, we don't care if people come in or not, but I'm saying go to, if you live in the Brevard County area in Florida, check out the pharmacy in Merritt Island. They're amazing. They're doing great things so they can keep you from having to do the pill. You can just do the topical. And Live Longer Medical in India Atlantic, Florida. They're making you as beautiful on the inside as you are on the outside. And my affiliates, go to the Shop Now bag and the ground therapy that will just absolutely keep you grounded and help you with all the pollution, EMF, all that stuff, and help reduce inflammation in the body, as well as Brain Tap. Rewrite the program with Brain Tap. And so if you want to get 15-day trial for free, check it out. We just had Dr. Patrick Porter in the classroom. So make sure you do everything you can to protect yourself and support the sponsors as they're supporting the classroom. And then there's finally another way that you can support the classroom, and it's by becoming an enrolled student. Whether you give $1 or $1,000 a month, just please be a part of helping grow the classroom by treasure, time, or talent. And so today we're getting the talent of Jason, and you can follow him at jchristoff.com. But if you want to learn how to become a master, if you are already an awesome student of self-sabotage and you know exactly what you're doing and you're becoming aware, then you may want to take one of his courses at freedomfromselfsabotage.com. There's a class on June 8th, the same day as the makeover class. And so, Jason, would you like to share a little bit about your class that you're going to be doing for the coaches, for people that want to become coaches?
Well, it's like a school. I open up enrollment. The class doesn't really start till September anyway. So we just open it up so that people can get enrolled and get ready and get into the material and get prepared for the class opening in September. And it usually sells out in 36 hours. I mean, last class sold out in 36 hours. So we qualify about 120 self-sabotage coaches around the world every year who work one-on-one with people to make sure they know why they keep repeating the same patterns in their life. It could be, like you said, dating the same person, not being able to lose weight, they're addicted, they want to start a business, quit their job, they can never do it. They want to write a business plan, they never get around to it. These are all very common things. And, I think you were mentioning, I don't know what you were mentioning earlier, but I thought a good example for what you had said was, you said there was maybe a doctor in a bad neighborhood and everybody wanted to move out. You should be aware that these cases are prone to self-sabotage because of where the person grew up. Michael Vick is one of 1,000 I could go over. Michael Vick lived in a very rough neighborhood. He became the best NFL quarterback in almost in history. He had the fastest 40-yard dash, became the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Then he had a decision to make. Would he detach from his old vibration, or would he bring his old vibration with him? And he brought his old vibration with him, brought the dogfighting with him. And so it's very common wherever we grow up, that becomes more like our family flag, our brand, our emblem, our jersey. And that again qualifies as the familiar. So when he's in a big mansion, he has everything that he wants. He has more money than he ever had. It doesn't feel familiar. And if you don't get, and I offer my services as well to NFL and NHL and NBA athletes to let them know that this is where the fear will come, where you become different than your old environment. You will want to bring your old environment with you into your new life. And I tell them how to overcome that. So just know it's very common for the old neighborhood to set the vibration as chaotic or crisis-based. So as you're sitting in a a $4 million mansion with everything you want and everything's at peace, they don't feel right. It's like they're wearing someone else's clothes. And until they bring the gang over or the posse to wreck the house and get everything chaotic again, they don't feel safe. Aaron Hernandez is another prime example. So that's why I offer my services to professional athletes, so they understand that fear when they get everything they could ever want.
That's wonderful, because people need to understand that this is not just them, that we are all one. And we were talking about that before we started the class today. We are all one. And I think shame keeps us from really looking at these habits that we have formed, and that S word, the shame word, that holds us back from really looking at who we are, being that self-cleaning oven that we deserve to be. Because, there was a movie called, I don't know if you're, I'm much older than you, but there was a movie called Johnny Dangerously with Joe Piscopo, and he would make once, he would make them, I did that once, and then he would say once. And that was my motto. I make a mistake once. And I sit there and I look at it, and I look at different ways that it could have ended differently. What could I have done differently, so that if it happens again, I'm prepared. It's how I've always thought. I'm the fourth kid of 5 kids, and I learned from all my brothers and sisters, so that when I made my own path, it was different and new. And so the familiar to me, I struggle. It's a, and I don't want to use the word struggle. It is something that I'm aware that I deal with. And it's the wanting to belong to my tribe, but realizing that I have to create a new tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
so
that's exactly what you want. You have to be comfortable and courageous enough to just visit your old family. You don't have to fit in. You don't have to have the booze and the Doritos. If you can you'll be attacked if you show up healthy, wealthy, and wise to a broke, overweight, and diseased tribe. But it's no reason to subvert your potential and be less than you're capable of.
Yes. And I want to say thank you to Adventure Star. She is really enjoying the class today. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, Camilla and Victoria and Leslie, unless you write down who you are, I don't know. I have no capability of seeing through the crystal glass. So please give us some love and share this. There's so many people that deserve to be aware that there is a way out. So we talked about tips and the mindset, and we only have about 5 minutes left on the podcast. But when it comes to the after hours, teachers' pets, maybe we can dive into this a little bit longer. But what are some of the mindsets that some of the pearls that we can self-correct so that we can start moving towards that neighborhood that we always wanted to live in?
Well, I think the best thing, the part of the brain that's really active in self-sabotage is the limbic brain. Mm-hmm. And it's very active when we're polluted. So if you want to turn off the part of the brain that is active in your self-sabotaging behavior, you have to get healthy. And this again is why the government and some of the forces that be are very non-compliant with healthy lifestyles, where they kind of discourage them through subconscious sort of imprinting too in the media. If you're looking to overcome your self-sabotage, your first step would just try to be healthy and understand that as you get healthy, your subconscious mind will try to make sure you don't rise up to your full potential. So be aware of that and try to really overcome it. Maybe you want to work with one of my self-sabotage coaches anywhere in the world. They're all listed on the freedomfromselfsabotage.com page. You can pick one of those coaches and they can work one-on-one with you. We do it in 2 hours. When we're done with you, there's not been one person I worked with whose life didn't increase dramatically in a positive direction. Only 2 hours. I'm like Marissa Peer. If I can't help you in 2 hours, go somewhere. I'm not doing a good job. And that's what Marissa Peer is like too. And that's why I admire her. I'm in her course as well. Yeah. And it's very important. We can do it in 2 hours where other therapists will be with you for 10 years.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with somebody that I had mentioned something about being sexually molested. And I was saying that, you know, and I have the 4 questions of responsibility on my website. I know you checked out my website, but the 4 questions of responsibility, and it's about creating everything and taking ownership for everything. And one of the questions is, you know, like, you know, how did I create molestation? And, you know, so that's being in the family. And if you could, in some of the gifts and lessons is that, you know what the signs are. You know, the 3rd question is what's going to be different. Well, and another one is of gifts and lessons is, well, I know what it's like. So if I had to take the bullet for that and my child doesn't have to take it, then it's my choice at that point. And so that right there, that right there helped her. And she texted me or emailed me saying 30 years of counseling haven't helped her that moment. And so it's amazing how quickly we can shift, but we have to be willing to shift, right?
Correct.
So that's that willingness. And so we're going to continue our conversation. For those of you who are tuning in now, I'm excited. Just know that you can type in a Q, write your question down for Jason. I want to thank you, Jason, for taking your experience forward so that others don't have to go through it. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
And for those of you who want to continue the conversation, you teachers' pets, please join us after the class where we're going to maybe talk a little bit more about this subject. Please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Jason Christoff wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
Are intended for the
man.
individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, so you talked about get healthy. And I know that I've several times I get, most every time people that come because they want to find a mate or, change their life or whatever it is that they want. We eventually start talking about nutrition and health and nutrition. It always works out that way. And so one of the things that I suggest for people is to stop losing weight. They need to stop losing weight. They need to focus on getting healthy and release. The weight will be released, because something that we do to sabotage ourselves is when we lose something, we try to find it. And so what we do is we release. And so with that, that's just a quick little tip of the mindset. Is there any other tips of the mindset that help us, like the rubber band snap every time you do something? What are some of those tips?
I think the best tip, I used to try and get people in shape as a living, and I had to quit, not because they weren't paying me. I was too busy to take everybody, but they weren't getting their money's worth, and I wasn't getting my satisfaction or my soul, filled up, because they would always struggle. And that's why I got into the self-sabotage. The people who want to lose weight have to be aware that it's very common. Say if you need to lose 40 pounds, it's very common to get to the 10-pound mark and then stop yourself, because that's the 10-pound mark generally is when you will catch the attention or the eye of the other tribes people. And then the other tribes people could be your friends. And in the financial field, they say your income's the average of your 3 best friends. In the health field, your weight will be the average of your 3 best friends. And usually pick your friends based on sort of blending in with their mediocrity. A lot of people think, we have a lot in common. But most people, they just pick someone that's going to be mediocre with them and not pressure them. So what the person has to understand is when they do start to lose weight, it's very common to put the brakes on for the same reasons we've talked about for the last hour, is because you're going to be above your counterparts. You're going to be better than the average. You're going to look like you're trying to become like high and you're trying to fulfill your own potential. And
Yeah.
in our society, it's more like a whack-a-mole society. And if anybody knows the patterns, it's your subconscious mind. You're trying to observe the world at 140 pieces of information a second. Your subconscious is observing at 11 million pieces per second. The subconscious is already well aware by 5 years old that this society is about keeping your head down. You have a tyrannical government. You have tyrannical systems where you're not allowed to excel. So you just kind of pick a mediocre job, do what everybody else is doing, get married, drink wine at night, watch TV. And this is the sort of safety protocol. And the thing about the subconscious mind, it's always looking to get some kind of positive emotional reinforcement that you're doing the great thing. And it can be hacked where it can make you pursue things that'll make you unhappy. But if everybody else is unhappy, it's going to say that's the safe card to play. Let's take a kamikaze pilot. You have like a 16-year-old person. Do you know what a kamikaze pilot is?
Yes, the one that they just don't go on their last mission, right?
They go on their last mission.
And they explode.
Right. So I'll tell you how the subconscious mind has a bit of a flaw in it. It's always looking for someone to say, good job, thumbs up, gold star, 10 out of 10, Smurf stamp, get the big award in front of the school. It likes that, right? Because like people like me. And that part, people like me is I'm safe. So you have like an 18-year-old walking by the square in Tokyo, World War II. There's a lot of positive reinforcement and emotional adoration of a kamikaze pilot getting the rising sun bandana on before he goes. And the subconscious mind says, hey, look, Fred. Well, that's not a good Japanese name, but says, hey, look, Fred. There's some things you could do to be adorned by the tribe and have friends and go along to get along. And whoever this Fred guy is, everybody seems to like him. Let's go do that. Big problem. What that is death. Mm-hmm. So our subconscious mind knows that the most dangerous role to play in an overweight, broken, depressed tribe is to be healthy, happy, and wealthy. It will make, if what everybody else is doing is making them miserable, the subconscious mind still does this. Okay. So
I love your self-conscious mind. I should have taken a picture of you doing that.
Yeah, it's like thumbs up. And so you have to be very well aware that it's going to give you the thumbs down when you make 150,000 if everybody's making 80. It's going to give you the thumbs down if you're 140 pounds and everybody else is 185. It's going to do that automatically, but that's still not a good enough reason to pack in your best life and follow the herd of mediocrity right off the cliff's edge. You don't have to do that. So for people who are losing weight, there is really no tips, because if you don't know how your subconscious mind works, you're just going to think you have a craving for ice cream. You'll have a good breakfast, you'll have a great snack, you'll have a good lunch, and then you'll have a good dinner. And then if you don't know how your subconscious mind works, now that person grew up in a family where everybody was sort of a human mess. The subconscious mind's going to say, hey, Judy, if you keep doing this, you're going to be kicked out of the tribe, right? Like one more healthy meal, and by 8 o'clock tomorrow, you're going to be down a couple pounds. Do you know what you're doing? And then the subconscious mind goes, ice cream, go get some ice cream. And Judy says, oh, I have a craving for ice cream. I said, no, you don't. You don't have a craving for ice cream. You have a craving for mediocrity. You have a craving to be average. You have a craving to go along to get along. You have a craving to fit in like a child fits in. Everybody likes Judy because Judy's like the janitor. Because no one's offended by Judy. People are offended by Giselle Bündchen. Tom Brady's wife. And there's a reason for that. The reason is she's different, not because she's beautiful. She's healthy, wealthy, and wise with her own opinion, which is what an adult is supposed to be. Everybody that's fitting in to go along, to get along, who are afraid to rise up to their true potential, still has their child-based adaptations with them from when they were between 5 and 13 years old. At 14 years old, you're supposed to make what's called a rite of passage, which was very important in ancient cultures. I tell this story often. In Sparta, they would take the men, Sparta, Greece, take the men. You're not allowed to come back for a week. You got to go outside the city walls. Some died. There was very vicious gray wolves out there. And the reason they did that is to sever the tie between the child and their parents so they became functional, capable, responsible adults. And when the child's out there, it's no longer about what mom's going to feed me. It's about what am I going to kill to eat here? I'm getting hungry. I got to make a kill. Do I sleep on the ground and get eaten by the gray wolves, or do I make a hammock high up in the treetop? Oh, I've cut myself. Where's my mom? Well, your mom's not there. You're going to have to bandage it yourself. Use your knowledge to survive. So when that person comes back into the Spartan tribe, they're allowed to have a different opinion, because the way group pack animals works is say, if you don't agree with me, you're going to be kicked out of the tribe. So if you already did 7 days out in the forest, that person has no more fear of the group pressure and only does what's moral, right, and ethical and just. And that's how the tribe survives. If you notice today, most men and women have never made that rite of passage. And that's why they're simply afraid to be thin and live longer when everybody else is overweight and dying prematurely, because they've never basically said, that's not worth it. They've never been able to think independent of the herd. And that's what we teach as self-sabotage coaches. Get them the proper framework so that when everybody else is not doing so good, you can walk in doing awesome, knowing you're going to be attacked, knowing that they're going to attack you, knowing you're probably going to attack yourself along the way, but you still creep ahead. It's about progress, never perfection, but you understand how this part of the brain is there as a favor to you, trying to say, hey, you know, like if you just be a little bit more mediocre, everybody will like you. Like if you come in looking this good in that nice car with this big house you live in, you know, some people will not like you. And that's not a good enough reason not to live your best life.
Well, you know, along with those lines, we ourselves become judgmental of the people who are healthy, are wealthy, are wise. And so we transfer our own judgment to others for ourselves. So I don't know if I made that clear,
No,
but if
it totally does.
if I'm judging you for being, you know, healthy and a leader in your field, if I'm judging you through jealousy or who do you think you are, or I'm gonna find something that's negative about you so that I can feel good about myself. Now that I've crossed over to the other tribe, I'm thinking those same thoughts about me that they're thinking about me because I've thought them once. And so that's another way that we can continue that self-sabotage. Like you said, even Vic went to the other neighborhood and he brought all his bad habits, all his old neighborhood with him. And so those are the things that we do. So even a person who quits drinking, there's a terminology called dry drunking. Even though they're not drinking, they're still behaving as if they were still drinking. So those are so many different things that we're doing to ourselves that we are not willing to sit there and say, you know, like when somebody cuts you off, some people go, oh, you know, flip them the finger, get upset, they get road rage. Me, on the other hand, I think, you know, I've done that before. Accidentally, I may have done that. So I'm going to give them a pass.
Right.
You know, so if we could just do that and be the loving voice in our head, I wonder how many of us would be willing to create a new tribe and say, okay, I'll still be close to this tribe, but in order for me to achieve my goals, I need to be surrounded by like-minded people.
You don't even have to be surrounded by the like-minded people. You
Okay.
can create like a fictional village through video and books, you know, because you might not be able to find a like-minded
Interesting.
tribe around. So you can go watch some great documentaries. You can watch Robert Kiyosaki on wealth. You can watch Marissa Peer on psychological happiness.
Yeah, she's
And then
awesome.
when you have all these positive influences, your subconscious mind, which is a reaction-based mechanism, it cannot think, and it does not predict future events. It just tries to make you fit in. So you literally, and it doesn't know the difference between a screen and real life. So Marissa appears on your screen. She is in real life inside your subconscious. And if you wash the subconscious mind over and over again with positive influences, you will create the idea that you have made a tribal migration into a new village. Your subconscious is there to protect you, to make sure you fit in. So you don't have to go around like people. Going around like people is just even makes it better, you know. And I've done that in my field, gone to the Top Truth Conference and spoke at one of the Top Truth conferences in Mexico, and it was fantastic. But regardless of how, you know, tyrannical it gets out there, you can always bring these people into your house and make sure you have positive influence. You definitely don't want the fear-based CNN pumping fear and liarrhea into your subconscious mind, because it will only mimic the fear. The subconscious is a good pattern recognizer. It doesn't care about sort of a riot in LA or a riot in Minneapolis. It does care that it's a fear-based event, and then it will try to find fear-based substitutes or surrogates when you stop watching the screen. Ice cream and a riot on CNN, they're very close on the vibration scale. So you have to be aware that's how your subconscious mind works. It matches more vibration than it does particular objects.
Interesting. That's a great perspective. Thank you so much. You know, it's a matter of switching our perspective. And I remember hearing a long time ago, Wayne Dyer, which he took the quote from Max Planck. Wayne Dyer said, you know, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And what I'm hearing you say is that we need to start looking at things differently. You know, if we're looking at a picture, or if we're a photographer and want to take a picture of something, and you know, we can change the picture. We can change what it looks like before we take that picture. And we can possibly take many thousands of pictures, but it's that one picture that you took the chance of changing it just a bit that made you take that step. Another thing I want to talk about, and I want to be aware of your time as well.
Oh, you're okay.
Okay. And for those of you, if you guys have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make, and I'm loving, you know, the conversation. I'm glad that Adventure Star, you're having a great experience with today's class. I do want to talk about a class I did a long time ago. Back then it was a radio show. Now it's a classroom. And we were doing on depression and anxiety. I was doing a show with David Baker Hardgrove, who was a LGBT psychologist. And he was, you know, helping people see and just giving us his perspective. And he was a great teacher in the classroom. And we would pick the topic the month before. And I think he was on twice a month, I believe. But we would pick the topic and then we would have the class. This week, the topic was depression and anxiety. And it's amazing when you're focusing on something, how many of the teachers present themselves in your life. And so I was the student trying to, you know, work that and create, you know, as much information for everybody to have. But all these people, depression and anxiety. When we were doing a class on self-love, that's what we were doing a class on. And that's when David said to me, Lily, the number one reason people are depressed and anxious is that they've lost their connection to self. They've lost that self-love. And that led me to write and do more research on, I did a 90-day challenge to self-love, and we decided to do that. And right now we're using the 90-day challenge to self-love. I created an ebook to do Dr. Furman's challenge. It's a infection protection challenge.
Nice.
Because one thing that we've learned through this whole pandemic is that people who are healthy, not the asymptomatic, but the healthy people that, quote, asymptomatic, don't react and don't respond severely to the COVID-19. And so the last 3 months, it's been all about boosting our immune system, getting healthy. This is our near-death experience, like with you, to come back, and not just come back, but come back triumphantly. So we're doing a challenge of 20 days with Dr. Furman. And, it's amazing how many people want to release weight and they want to be healthy. But just like Meatloaf, remember the great philosopher Meatloaf who sang, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. But we can substitute the love for being healthy, being wise, being around the right people, picking the right mate. But here's what we always do, but I won't do that. That's what we say to ourselves subconsciously. How do you suggest that people match their intention with their actions?
Well, I think if they want better results with everything, again, they have to know that the subconscious mind will always be matching the internal environment with the external. Mm-hmm. So if you're vibrating, even like depression, most of my clients as self-sabotage clients dealing with depression or anxiety, they were raised by parents who either smoked, drank coffee, or drank alcohol. And what that does, if you have a parent that basically is intoxicated like that, especially with caffeine, if you're raised by a parent who drank coffee all the time, they're heavily limbically activated in what's called the hindbrain or the reptilian brain or the R complex. And it's a very low IQ part of the brain. So it's a child-based IQ. The fight, flight, or freeze system is a child-based IQ. It's set off by coffee, alcohol, or nicotine, or any other heavy pollutants. Mm-hmm. And what that does, it means you were raised by children. Even though they had adult bodies, you're raised by children. So it's going to give you depression because you weren't really raised properly. It's going to give you anxiety because the anxiety you carry is the same anxiety that the nicotine addict or the caffeine addict or the alcohol addict is emanating out as a vibration, washing over you as a child. They eventually leave, but you're like a tuning fork. You're vibrating at caffeine frequency. You're vibrating at nicotine frequency. And depression is nicotine frequency. It's the same thing as caffeine. So if you want to, sort of become better, you have to calm the inner vibration down, which will feel completely unfamiliar to you. You were raised in disaster. You will love disaster. You will absolutely love it. So as you become healthier, realize your subconscious mind will make you afraid because you're changing. Even though you're changing for the better, you're changing. It will want to stop you. It'll bring in other factors that'll try to get the old tuning fork going again. You have to physically reject it and then be consciously aware that that first 7 years of life has set your tuning fork. Now it's up to you to change it. No need to relive anything. Just the fear will come when you become better. Become better anyway. That's what you have to do. I'll tell you a story of a lady. I went to a very high-end party one time in Montreal. I brought one of my employees with me who was raised in disaster. and there was many eligible professional athletes at this party. And she fell in love with the cook through the little crack where you put the, put the food out. She managed to make eye contact, fell in love with this guy's full of tattoos. He was out on a work release program. And the reason, because we're not told of the work by Rupert Sheldrake or the morphic field, she could feel this guy's vibration before she entered the block where we were.
Wow.
And so this is how it works. So you will, if you were raised in disaster, you will attract disaster-based emotions, disaster-based people, disaster-based jobs, disaster-based bank accounts, unless you change your inner vibration. And the best way to change it is to get healthy, so that when you're in a city block and someone's going to come up to you, they're going to come up to you because they can smell your vibratory essence of health. If it's a vibratory essence of disaster, the guy with the tattoo on the back of his neck that says F you, he will find you.
That's right.
Okay.
And you could be in a room full of Gandhis and you will go for that tattooed.
That guy, you'll be like, I like bad boys. That's just another phrase in self-sabotage coaching that says, I like disaster, I like crisis, I like chaos. As soon as I hear someone say, I like bad boys, I know where we're going with that coaching session. I know their parents were smokers, drinkers, or coffee drinkers right away. Wow. Absolutely. 100%.
Wow. Okay. So I think, Leslie, your question was answered. She said, we'd love to know how to calm the inner vibration. I'm resonating with this. So thank you, Leslie, for being brave and making a statement. I think that's the first thing that needs to happen. It's an acknowledgement.
Yeah, you have to be aware that you have a very funny part of the brain that stands proudly trying to make you find surrogate family members wherever you go. And maybe you don't want to find surrogate family members. Maybe they were really messy. But that's your program, and consciously you have to interfere with it, which means you have to physically watch yourself and giggle at yourself as you screw yourself up and go, hey, I see that now. I see what you're doing. And subconsciously, you have to wash over the subconscious, giving it new environmental stimuli that's positive so that it stands tall to protect you into the new positive tribe. That's what you have to do.
It's funny that you would say that because, I always say you don't have to give birth to somebody to be a part of their family, to love them as a child. You don't have to be a blood member of a family to feel that you belong to that group of people. And I believe that that's a change of mindset. It's a belief. And I've often said, and this is something that happened to me. I had this picture. It's a vision board. I had my vision board. I still have it, my vision board. I was so proud of my vision board. And every day I'd stand in front of my vision board and I'd have, I had it divided into different quadrants that I find myself in. And I remember it was like almost a year looking at that. And I started getting anxious and angry that some of the things that I really wanted, that I was trying to manifest, weren't happening fast enough. Some of the things were happening, but not everything. So one day I was just angry looking at my vision board, and I had cut some words from a magazine and Mod Podged it on. It was just a beautiful vision board. And all of a sudden I noticed the word believe. And of course we have to believe and be a part of what we want, not just half-ass do it. It's just like, maybe I'll try. And so I was looking at the word believe. It just jumped out at me. And the word was white, but the IE was red. And all of a sudden I looked at the word believe and all I saw was lie.
Right.
The LIE. And I asked myself the question at that moment, and I wrote a meme about it. I wrote an article about it. It was so impactful to me. And my question was, what is the lie in the middle of my belief. And we are so taught, we are so programmed from day one to believe a certain way. And I think that's what's happening nowadays, that our belief system is being attacked by false information, or maybe everything we believe that we thought was true is false, and everything we thought was false is true. And all of a sudden, this is affecting all of us to the point where we don't know where we belong anymore.
It's
So
true.
I really believe it. This is a very impactful time to create something different for all of us, because there's so much hate, and talk about the vibration of fear and hate that's permeating through our radios, through our televisions, through YouTube, through censorship, through all these things. It's happening, and we have got to take a stand. And so, as we are trying to become seekers of truth, we need to be aware that before we're critical about something we thought was false, we need to be curious about some of our new truths that we need to adopt and embrace. I mean, have you found that these days, and I know that we're going to shift a little bit here, have you found that with these times, with things not making sense and the media trying to feed us lies, has this attacked your belief system?
Oh, no, not at all. My belief system I'm well aware of, I've been writing on what I call our human farmers for 15 years. I've written probably 3,500 articles on how we're ruled as human cattle, and all the psychological, I specialize in mind control and psychological manipulation pushed through the screens. And I explain that sort of daily on my Facebook page and have a pretty big following there. So people can go and understand that when they do watch, and I know Bad Moms and Dirty Grandpa are my favorite go-to movies, but it doesn't matter if it's CNN or really there's so much manipulation in the media, where you have really no idea how deep they can actually influence how you vote by the colors of your commercials during the voting time. So the color of the two parties in Canada have the same colors as the two parties in the States. They're blue and red. So if they wanted the blue team to win, they run Ford commercials, which are blue, Budweiser commercials, which are blue. If they want the red team to win, they do Chevy commercials, which are red, or Budweiser, which are red. And people don't even know that the colors affect them. And so no, this sort of tyrannical lockdown, ushering in of rules that we could never ever live under is no shock to me, because people like myself have been warning against this setup for about 15 years now. So we give solutions on how to give it. We're actually in Canada, we're suing the federal, provincial, and municipal governments of Canada. The lawsuit cost $400,000, and we're suing them because nothing that they're suggesting or asking us to do has any medical or scientific validity.
Wow.
They're just making up as they go. So
good.
I am a self-sabotage coach, but I also work in the truth industry, because waking up someone to the truth is the same thing as self-sabotage coaching. Everybody out there is super powerful. So they have huge potential. And that's why part of the human farming operation is to keep the human cattle low self-esteem, poisoned, infiltrated with negative role modeling in the media. And it becomes so embedded in your vibration. If I can get all that junk into you up until 7 years old, I can put my foot in your back, push you out the door, and you will self-sabotage, a self-abuse in a self-sadistic way for the rest of your life. If I can program you full of negative, you'll find only negative. And that's the best way to harness your energy for my goals, instead of you becoming powerful and harvesting your energy for your own goals. So I know how the system works inside and out, and I teach this daily on my Facebook page, Jason Christoff.
And what is, so Jason Christoff. So you can go, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you can go to your website and you can click onto your.
There's articles, but the Facebook page will kind of slow drip the truth into you. You don't want the full garden hose or fire hose to the face effect of my sort of truth. You want to get the IV drip. So go to my Facebook page. It has a picture of me, my wife, and my daughter as the profile pic on the top of a boat, because there's another one I don't go to. So look for the one where there's 3 of us on a boat, and
Very
click
good.
follow, because I can't take any more friends on that one.
Yeah. Well, you know, I just interviewed, I don't know if you know who Michelle Sullivan is. She was born with a rare form of dwarfism, and she became the president of the Caterpillar Foundation. She worked as a director for Caterpillar, and she's about 4 feet tall. And she has this rare disease, dysplasia, where she has lots of surgeries that, you know, but anyway, she early in her life, she thought she was like everybody else. She didn't know that she was different until she went to kindergarten. And while she was playing, someone said, "Wait, why are you so small?" And by the end of that day, she had developed so many fears and phobias. And later in life, many things happened in her life that made her realize that she would have to grow. Although she's not going to physically grow anymore, she needed to grow inside. That was my takeaway from her, is that many of us are so focused on the external, and we can't tell if somebody is depressed on the external. We can't tell if somebody is an alcoholic, or someone is, we can tell if they're a food addict, especially when you're seeing them, but somebody can clean themselves up and we don't even know. And so I just want to challenge. I think this class today has been, I really have enjoyed this topic, and I've learned so much from you today. Thank you so much, Jason. But I want to challenge all of us to continue to grow emotionally, to grow our mind and expand it, be curious, not critical, because we will find what we're looking for. That's absolutely true. And so I want to challenge everybody to spend the time. And I know that everybody tells me, and the majority of the people say, "Oh, I don't have any time. I don't have any time." But the reality is we all have some same amount of time. And I want us to take inventory of how many times, how many hours we spend mindless, wasted on searching the web, or watching Netflix, or watching your soap opera, or doing whatever it is. So I want to challenge you to learn more about self-sabotage, to learn more about self-love, learn more about what's happening today, but don't learn it from the mainstream media that is trying to keep you controlled and fearful. Jason, would you like to add to any of that before we go?
Yeah, if you were just to unplug from the media, or, you know, if you just even, if you kept watching it and came over to my Facebook page and saw some of the videos I put out videos that will leave your jaw on the floor, of experiments that hack people's mind. And you can hack someone's mind with color or images in about 45 seconds. And there's lots of video demonstrations I use of that, where the person, completely unaware that their mind was hacked by what color they were shown or what images they were shown. And if someone wants to go actually see one of those right now, just go to YouTube and put in "Magic for Humans, Influencing the Influencers." Magic for Humans, Influencing the Influencers. And you will see a video demonstration of how easy it is to hack someone's mind with a visual aid. And I want you to know, after you watch that video, that your mind's being hacked like that every 5 seconds in every Hollywood movie you've ever seen, every TV show you've ever seen, and every newscast you've ever seen, hacked just like that. That video will put your jaw on the floor and show you that you have no idea how your mind works. And if you did, you would know where the enemy lies right away, which is basically sort of like a medical, media, science, government collusion that is sort of hunting you right now in broad daylight. And it's important to get this word out so that you understand you got to keep your opinions based on reality, not based on what's coming through the screen, based on your personal experience. And this is why hacking, you got to learn to hack your own mind. That's what you got to do.
That's right, right. And to be a seeker of truth. I love that you're a seeker of truth as well. And we need to unite. I want to create a group called I Am 99, because the 1% is controlling the 99%. And if they divide us like they are dividing us, then we won't be 99%. We'll be smaller groups that they can manage even more. And so it's so important that we rise above this. And it's just not just about, you know, many of you that feel that this is about self-sabotage and it's beyond that. And so, you know, this is great information, a great start. And I'm going to put that link. I just posted a link today on my Facebook page, and I don't do politics and I don't do sports, but for the first time in my career in broadcasting, a disease or a condition has been turned into a whether you're for a Democrat, political. This isn't, you know, it's not. It shouldn't be political. And so when I'm talking about these things in my classroom, where I've made the commitment of no politics, it's all kind of like merging together. And we've got to take a stand. We've got to become aware that there's this new bill. Is it that you saw is it HR 6666?
Yes. Yeah.
And so would you like to say anything about HR 6666?
Well, I think everybody should know that around the world you're getting the same sort of story. And that's why we're suing the government, because it's a fabricated story. They have not isolated the coronavirus. So under the most basic standard scientific protocols, in order to call any pathogen a virus, you have to isolate it in its full genetic sequence, because viruses come from people. So a lot of what we think are viruses are genetic material that has the same genetic sequence as our own cells. And that's why it's important, if you take a swab of someone's mucus or you take blood, you got to make sure what you're testing for or what you say you found is different than our own blood. Because then if you apply tests to that, everybody will fail simply because you're testing for someone who has blood, and everybody has blood. And that's why if you were to ever isolate under the most basic scientific protocols, for you to come out of a lab and say, I have a virus, you have to isolate it in its full genetic sequence. You have to transfer it to another human. It has to make that person manifest the same disease that the original host has. Then you have to extrapolate that 100% genetic sequence out of the new sick person. It's called the Koch's postulate, and that's the only test to identify and come out of a lab with any validity that you found a new virus. None of those 4 steps have been done. That's even why they call it CoV SARS-2, because it has a similar genetic sequence to SARS, which means it doesn't exist. We don't have any death rates above 2019 or 2018 levels. So what kind of pandemic doesn't kill any more people than the year prior or the year prior to that? And what kind of virus needs a 24-hour public relations campaign on every screen in the world? If it was real, would it not be obvious? And this is why we're suing they haven't even proven, and this is why TV programming is so powerful. There's probably no one out there that knows they've never proved that viruses can make healthy people sick. They've never proved that, ever in medical history.
Well, what doctors who have come in the classroom that are alternative and holistic and functional, they've said that the virus, there's nothing wrong with the virus. It's our bodies that are sick, our bodies that are responding to that we just can't handle it. But if
people die, that's how far away we are from the logical foundation of basic humanity, is the most people today are concerned that people die. Like in the US, 2.9 people die every year. In Canada, it's 300,000. In the UK, it's 610,000. That's how many people die every year. We're so far away from a logical foundation on this that you'll take a person in the street, you tell them 10 people died yesterday, they have a reaction like Batman died or Superman died or some superhero that was never supposed to die has died. People die all the time. We have regular people dying at regular rates from regular diseases advertised as irregular to weaponize fear in the public, because with psychological operations, it's easier to manipulate, control, and steal from someone who's in fear. And that's why I tell people, be healthy, because you can eat fear in the form of ice cream and coffee. Coffee is liquid fear. That's what it is. Any caffeine is liquid fear. And then if you're putting visual fear, like CNN, in with liquid fear, or even food-based fear like Doritos or McDonald's, you're just going to vibrate. You're going to be so afraid of the world, they'll be able to lock you in a jail cell, and only then you'll feel safe. But when all the fear-based toxins exit your system, you're going to know you were had. So they put you in fear purposely so that you're easier to manipulate. This is a very old human farming tactic. This is not new. This is
if you look back and you look at all these viruses that have come out, every 2 years or election year, there is a virus. And I posted a video not too long ago from 1976, and it was George Wallace interviewing the head of 60 Minutes, the CDC. And that was just so breathtaking to see a journalist trying to find the truth. And that was back then when the pharmaceutical industry or the vaccine makers were liable for causing injury.
Absolutely correct. And that's in our lawsuit against the Canadian government. We're also suing because independent news agencies are forbidden now to ask our politicians pressing questions, like show us the evidence. Let's discuss the real-time PCR test that's used to confirm COVID infection, while the inventor of that test said it in no way could qualify any viral infection. So when the inventor of the actual test has said there's no way this test can be used to identify any viral disease, why are you using it to confirm viral disease? Because that would mean there's no validity to any of the testing they're doing for anybody. And we're not allowed to ask those questions. So this is not new. It doesn't matter if it's 3 Mile Island, the killer bees, the ozone layer,
Zika,
Ebola, swine flu, it could be global warming. If you're always, the government's job is to threaten you with a never-ending supply of hobgoblins, all of them fabricated. And so you're just easier to rule. And that's why you have to unplug from their system. Their systems of control rotate around indoctrination and basically intoxication. So
that's why in the United States, our liquor stores were essential.
Here too. And
were they?
The seniors were allowed to shop early. Like they used to open at 9 and seniors were given free reign from 8 to 9 if they wanted to get their poisonous alcohol. Even though alcohol is proven to increase viral infection, the gyms are closed, the weed shops are open. You can get a breast augmentation, but you can't go to the gym and you can't get a massage, and the chiropractors are only taking emergencies. It's not, you don't have to be a
Doesn't make
rocket
sense.
scientist
That's
or
right.
wear a tinfoil hat to put these, it's not hard to connect the dots when they're the size of the moon and the sun. And people have to understand their government needs seriously replacing or elimination if they're ever going to be free, because what's going on here is also economic. The government has taken so much of the people's money. So there's a point in history where the governments have always taken more money. They get greedy. Like during, I'm not going to talk about 9/11, but on 9/11, there was an office destroyed at the Pentagon where they were investigating. There was $2.7 trillion missing from the Pentagon budget. Trump just gave away 6.2. This is the theft of the human resources of a country. Like currency is a container of the energy of a person. They're stealing your energy in a very old, ancient, magical way. And that energy you're supposed to circulate. It's like, you're supposed to circulate that money back to the people. So if someone doesn't have a job, you're supposed to give them, like in Canada, maybe $2,000 a month so that they can survive without struggling till they find the job again. Our politicians are so greedy. I want people to be very well aware that this is a historical cycle. They use currency as a container for your energy. And then they steal so much of it, they get so greedy, they don't want to circulate it back to that person. They don't want anybody receiving any sort of handout. They're taking everybody's energy, and this is almost like a final energy grab. They're so ferociously corrupt. That's why the government keeps giving out all these loans to all the government friends. They're taking one last theft of the human energy kitty, and then they're just going to let everybody rot. And this is a historical cycle. People have to be very careful what's going on with their government right now. This is a spiritual attack. It's an energetic attack. And it's almost like a Harry Potter attack, because when they take your energy in the form of currency is a container for your energy, and they take so much that you can't survive, they literally will destroy your ability to breathe.
And hence the masks.
Yeah, hence the mask. There's other things going on. It's a very deep, spiritual, old, ancient war. So I know you don't really talk about that on your show, but I think it's important people understand why so much money is flowing out of our countries to companies or foundations right now.
Well, I tell you what, maybe we should have another conversation in the future about this, because again, I wish that this was not associated with politics, because that's my commitment. It's, I don't do sports, I don't do politics. There's other people who do it better. And I do life, but this has become part of our life. And at this point, we need to be very much aware that our freedoms are being taken away. They start small and then they keep increasing and increasing. And so we've got to be about stop watching the nonsense television and about learning what's really truly happening, and dig until you find that truth. Find people, like we've been talking about it here in the classroom. So the information that we're bringing out might be a little different than the information that Jason is bringing. So we need to all work together and be a detective. You may be your medical detective, a personal detective, whatever it is, so that you can stop being duped. Wake up. It's time to take the red pill, not the blue pill.
And do your responsibility. I like your phrase.
You can take a pill or you can take responsibility. And it's not that I'm against the pill. Just like I'm not against vaccination, I am for informed choice. I'm for doing the right things. And once you know, you can choose whatever you want. But once you know the truth about it and it's not being kept or withheld from you, that's what I'm for. And so, because, some people, there are life-saving drugs out there that you can use temporarily, but if you don't heal your body, that pill will eventually kill you. So it's time.
And I think people should understand too about informed consent. After they watch that video, I want them to watch that video, Magic for Humans, Influencing the Influencers.
Mm-hmm.
You will see that if you don't understand that you can have your mind hacked, and then you'll vomit the answer they want forward, thinking that you're thinking when you are not thinking, that's what that video will definitely show you. That informed consent can sometimes be nothing more than psychological manipulation.
That's
So
true.
watch that video and you'll see that so clearly. Even myself in the field of self-sabotage and psychological research all the time, that video blew my mind. And it's only about 7 minutes long.
The Magic of Humans?
Magic for Humans. It's a
For Humans.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube. Magic for Humans, Influencing the Influencers.
I will post it on there. Influencing the Magic for Humans. Yeah, Influencing the Humans. It's just 6 minutes and 15 seconds, right?
Did you see it?
I'll put it on the website as soon as we're done here. And Jamie, the James experiments. Trying to remember his last name. James. He's from England. Jamie. I think Brown.
Darren Brown, maybe.
Darren Brown. That's right. Darren Brown experiments. They did the placebo effect. They did the placebo effect. That's an excellent
If you
experiment.
want to see how your brain really works, go to Darren Brown's page.
Yeah,
because he'll show you that what you think's your own opinion has been planted in there. Because all Darren Brown does is plant opinions in people's brains and then show them how gullible they were and how easy they were to be hacked. Yeah. It's the greatest show on earth, and our TVs do it to us every day. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of the class today. You're a great teacher, Jason. You're a young man, and I'm so glad that we have a future ahead of us where the youth are bringing the next generation forward. And so thank you.
I'm 50 years old, so.
I'm still older than you. But good job. Good on you. Good on you.
And I don't dye my hair or dye my beard, even though my brother-in-law thinks I do.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah,
well, for those of you, I'm going to be posting that. I'll put the link on there as well, and I'll take a look at it. But it's time to be a free thinker. It's time to stop and get off the maddening merry-go-round and stop repeating what you hear. Actually research it. There are places where you can research it, but you're going to have to go beyond page 1 now at Google, because that's all owned by the same people who are trying to manipulate you. I did a meme one time. I said it's pretty sad that we're as smart as Google, because we don't have encyclopedias anymore. We can't go to the sources that we used to go to. Now fact checking is not even accurate. And so we've got to be smarter than that, and maybe create places where, like this, and like what Jason is doing as well, where we can feel safe to choose and choose the right thing for us. So thank you so much for the work you're doing, Jason. I know that Brooke absolutely adores you. I have to say that out loud if she's watching. I know she's watching. And so thank you, Brooke, for introducing me to Jason. And so thank you all for watching today. We're going to say goodbye now, and hopefully you will share this and like it, and make sure that we continue sharing truth. I know that sometimes you get upset with me or get upset with the truth, the messenger, but what you're really dealing with is that you're angry at the situation, not the messenger. So if you're angry with me, anything that we said, or angry with Jason with anything that he said, it's time to discover why. because that's your intuition telling you to look into it. So be curious, not critical, and we'll see you soon.